This is the first live stream that I'm doing, and hopefully the quality is good. Let's just make sure all the settings are in their proper place. Alright, cool. It looks like we are live, boys and girls. So this is going to be part 3 and part 4, or maybe it's just one part 3, depending on how fast I can get this stuff done. But we're going to get into the painting process, and I'm going to once again skip cleaning up the lines because that's just generally how I paint. So let's color this thing in from back to front. So we're going to want to go into the background and layer, not really layer, but I guess start blocking in the colors. So I kind of want to go for this more of like a warm, not really sunset sky, but a little bit more yellow and dust colored, if that makes sense. And I want to blend that out. Just actually a little bit of blue wouldn't be too bad, since the bug has orange, and those are complementary colors. So we're gonna do like this washed out blue. And now, thinking about what the flowers might be colored in, I think I'm gonna start with just like a basic green, because we want it to look like, you know, a lot of foliage. And somewhere within these colors we're going to test out, you know, a little bit of purple, a little bit of green, but not push it too hard, so that at least we have some sort of, you know, color, not really color palette going on. Yeah, it's like hard for me to talk right now. So let's see. All the way to the foreground. I'm going to color in a little bit of the foreground, which is a brown color. Let's do like a darker brown. Fairly dark, and in some areas where the light will hit, you know, where the flower's not blocking it, you're gonna see a little bit of the lighter brown, and we'll go even lighter because we can. So something like that. Also, the green is a bit bright. We're gonna go hit, you know, the undersides of the flowers with this much darker green. Basically kind of indicate that, you know, there's sunlight hitting the top, and underneath all the flowers and underneath some of the foliage, you've got this variation in the values. So we've got like a lot more darker green going on, like these flowers on the right. Undo that. Hopefully everything is looking good. Hopefully the sound levels are good as well. I tried to do a little bit of pre-record testing, but you know, there's only so much that I can experiment with without actually getting to try out the whole streaming in advance. You know, I need user feedback to be able to improve it. So hopefully it's watchable right now and it's not too laggy. Alright, let's say that's pretty good. I'm going to create a separate layer, and on this layer I'm going to fill the color for our little character. This is just so that we can work around the the background, and he'll be visible no matter, you know, what sort of colors we drop in there, because it could get pretty hectic with all the different foliage. You know, if I want to push the colorful aspect of this painting and really kind of focus on that part, then it's pretty important to separate this guy out, even though he's still like very early, I guess, you know, even though haven't really cleaned up his lines, and there might be things that I will still go back and change. Basically, most of the coloring process, the thing that takes up the most time in the coloring process is blocking everything in. So blocking in the basic shape, you know, after you get the full image kind of blurred, I guess, you can just zoom in and refine whatever parts that you want, you know, the viewer to focus on. So that's kind of what we're gonna do. First, we're going to block everything in, and then I'll go in and I'll refine stuff. Okay, cool. So our little character is, well, I'm only using one color, so if I turn off the line art, he's gonna look naked. But yeah, he's blocked in. As you can see, we see the line art around him. He's just kind of a brownish, you know, darker skin tone color. Obviously, we're gonna do different colors for his shorts and all that other good stuff. And I might make the straps kind of like woven grass type things. For the fly, or the bee, the killer bee, I'm going to create a separate layer, and on this layer we're going to quickly drop in a fill as well. One of the reasons that I like to do a fill, a separate layer fill for whatever object I'm coloring, is that it allows me to, I guess it's kind of like clean up the paint, you know, well, I guess you'll see what I mean. So for example, if I have the head painted in, blocked in, you know, with whatever color I want, going back and highlighting it and shading it becomes a lot easier because it's on, well, since it's on a separate layer. All you do is you lock the layer, you know, you grab your highlights, and there you go, and now you're painting on the bee, and you're not worried about having, you know, strokes go and messing with the background colors and all that. So that's one of the reasons that I like to separate the layers out for, you know, the big objects that I'm working on. The advantage of not separating layers is sometimes it looks more natural if you do everything on one layer, because the pieces start to blend together. You know, you use like a lower opacity brush, and that causes colors to mix a little bit. You know, you use the color picker, you pick up some colors. For the wings, obviously they're not going to stay yellow or gold or whatever we have going on here. This is just to get the fill in. We will be going back and picking proper colors for them. Right now I just want an approximate shape for, you know, for this object or this character. Okay, cool. So we've already made a little bit of progress. Obviously this stuff won't take long, but if I'm, you know, going down and breaking down all the little components and coloring like the individual rocks in the foreground, that's going to take a little bit longer. But enough of that. For now, I'm going to create a new layer for the flowers, even though I will end up merging them down. I want to create a new layer for them because I want to play around with what sort of colors I could pick and choose, you know. Some might not look good. Like if I do this red color up in the foreground, I'm going to, after coloring it, zoom out a little bit and take a look if I actually want that or not. And I kind of don't. Already I don't really like the look of it. So I want to push it towards a more purple. I'm going to lock this layer and quickly drop, you know, some purple. And let's unlock that layer and let's try a few more colors in the mix before we make a conclusion as to what colors we want and what colors we want to avoid. So if I'm going for more of a red, I actually like that. Blue and orange are complementary, And the same goes for, oh, real quick, let me turn off my Flux so that hopefully the screen is not too orange for you guys. This might be better. So anyways, oh, that may have changed everything. We don't want two sets of complementary colors within one scene, so I need to kind of focus it down a little bit more. I think instead of doing the purples, we're going to slightly push the flowers in a more blue direction. So let's grab the color balance, and we are going to, can we select highlights? Yeah, it's just, oh, okay, yeah. Basically, we want to get rid of a specific color to have the blues be a little bit more apparent. So if we slide it, I'm not even sure why. Like on the phone, it's easier to do. Oh, here we go, red. So I can get rid of the reds. Whoa, that looks really glitchy. But basically, you grab the red on the left. You know, the greens, we can get rid of some greens too. And you see how it's pushing the whole scale of whatever we have on the layer towards like a darker or a more blue hue. And then, you know, obviously you have the blues. You can either push them this way to make them more saturated, but we don't need to do that. And for the curves, let's do like a little shape like this. Let's get rid of more reds. And I'm going to go with a lighter blue highlight and a little bit less saturated as well. The reason that I'm choosing to do something slightly less saturated is I don't want it to be too bright and too distracting. For this one right here, we'll do, again, you know, maybe we'll have some colors, small amounts of like red and stuff in the background where just the top of the flowers are visible. Check this out. See, if we take off the line art, look how weird this looks. Okay, let's turn that back on. I want to fill the flower on the kid's back. I think the color here is pretty important, and I still feel like we do a bluish, but this time we can go, maybe we can do like a light blue color, and this time we go a little bit more on the saturated, you know, make it brighter. So for those who didn't notice, I put the new flower, the backpack flower thing, on a separate layer, and it's on the layer underneath the kid, so I can draw it in, you know, end up erasing it, moving it around, whatever, without affecting the character in the foreground. So I shouldn't even be getting ahead of myself, but I'm just going to put down some highlight test strokes and see if it's kind of coming out the way that I want it to. For the back, we'll do some darker blues. I think this works. Unlock this layer. We can do a couple of purple flowers here. like some random orange stuff in the background. I'm gonna end up cleaning up a lot of the leaves and all that when we get rid of the line art. You know what? Let's do this on a separate layer. Let's go back to the grass layer for a sec, and from the grass layer we will define kind of like the movement of the leaves a little bit. Now we want a lot of little particles and debris flying around. This is supposed to be a piece, you know, all about this thing is hovering pretty low and it's got huge wings and it's causing, you know, all this stuff to fly up in front of us. And hopefully that comes across, you know, as sort of like what I pictured in my head. And if it doesn't, well then I'm gonna try to figure it out and see what I'm doing wrong, because that's just how I paint. You know, I try to figure out. I set like an idea that I haven't really done before, and then I kind of wing it, and based off of how it's turning out, you know, I'll make adjustments, and in the end, hope for the best. Maybe it's not really the best technique, but you know, how else are you gonna learn? If you unless you know you have somebody telling you exactly how it's supposed to be done, which I do not. Alright, so we've got a little bit of color there. Let's go back to the grass. Looks like we have some leaves in the foreground that we missed, so we'll color those in. Also, you can chat for the live stream stuff, so if you guys have any questions, be sure to ask. You know, I'll definitely answer as best as I can. Let's get these rocks situated. I'm going to go for a gray, but still a little bit on the yellow scale, like a very saturated brown basically for the rocks. And for now we'll make them all one color, but obviously with some highlights and some shadows we're going to vary it up and make it look interesting. Now I'm going to lower the opacity on the flower line art layer quite a bit. Now we're going to do another pass, this time hopefully kind of figuring out where what might go. Lower the brush size to about a 10 so that we have a little bit of control. Okay, let's do a flower here, and since we have a flower, let's give the flower a base to kind of grow out of. Give it a couple of leaves, make them all give them movement. Now, since this series is about how to draw anything, you know, I'm kind of trying to go off of shapes. You basically use shapes and lines to try to best represent, you know, what it is you're trying to draw. So, you know, I know flowers have petals, and I know that they're attached to like the base of the flower. I haven't studied flowers much. Like I don't really know what they look like or what they're made out of. I don't remember all my like 6th grade teachings. But you take that concept or that, you know, basic idea of how you see flowers and you start applying it. You start playing around with, you know, the basic shapes and laying them into your environment so that they look, you know, decent. and you can kind of tell the purple flower is like a dandelion or whatever ones, you know, that you blow out, and then these yellow flowers have like a thicker base, and then, you know, they have short yellow leaves. So I'm still on, well, I created a new layer after lowering the opacity a little bit, so it's kind of like the midground layer. We have in the foreground we have the rocks, you know, that the kid is sitting on top of, basically, like the little rocks right in front of him. We have just some dark foliage, and then after dropping back towards the midground, you're seeing, you know, a little bit less detail, a lot of strokes of grass going left and right, and, you know, and for the background we'll do similar thing, but a lot more dust and blurriness and all of that. And that's gonna help drive the focus, you know, because if I made the background too detailed, yeah, sure, I could spend like, you know, 30 hours on the piece and then people will be like, oh, that looks really good. But at the same time, you can spend a quarter of that time, you do the right things to it, you know, to make it look realistic. And basically, if you want to make it look realistic, you'd actually be saving time, because in real life, if you were like trying to record an action shot like this, you know, you have to focus on a specific thing. Your eyes can't just like focus at everything at once. So technically, we want to use realism to kind of like speed up time for us, and transfer, you know, the impressionist part to kind of like to time management, I guess. I don't know. I'm gonna just, again, I'm winging it. I am winging it. Let's see how this looks without the line art. Okay, you can kind of see a little bit more grass movement. Is that correct to say? And I'm just, as you can see, I'm not even really choosing much more colors from the color wheel. I'm just picking, you know, local colors that have started mixing, and dragging and dropping them and testing them out and seeing, you know, how they interact with the rest of the scene. Let's get a curve going here that kind of wraps around and follows the wings. I really want this to have a almost half pipe shape, where everything is kind of like leading our eyes towards this bug. This bug, I don't even know what to call him. Bill, Benjamin, something with the B, you know, because it's a bug and it's a bee. All right, I'm gonna merge this down with the lower layer, but I'm going to get rid of this flower. And instead of getting rid of it, let's cut it out and just move it a little bit. Let's do that. I think we'll also go to, yep, we're on the flower layer. We'll also get a little bit of purple in the back. And I think we want to not make our character look too stupid. So we're gonna add some of that blue into the background as well. Hey Magenta, thanks. And thanks for stopping by and you know, hanging out. Hopefully the stream goes well, and maybe if the format works, I can do more videos like this in the future. But again, just dropping a little bit of blue in the background, and we'll kind of shape them to the flowers that we're implying that, you know, that are visible. I think that works. We'll also use a little bit of the petals, like a little bit of color from the flowers to kind of indicate, you know, petals flying up and all that. So that should be cool too. What I want to fix right here is this patch of grass that's going upwards right underneath the bug is bugging me. No pun intended. Or actually, no, I kind of you know, thought about that in my head beforehand. So anyways, there shouldn't be too much more of those, guys. I know it's pretty late here. I'm busy.
Miss you. Psych.
Okay, bye. Psych. No, this is my sister dropping by. Yeah, I guess that's the only real downside of streaming, is sometimes you get unexpected visitors. Anyways, let's continue carving into this thing. There's a stroke right here that I'm gonna get. Oh, whoops. A little bit extra underneath that I want to erase. Create a new layer on top of the background. And I want to soften the brush a little bit. But not so much so that, you know, it completely looks hollow. I'm going to create a new layer since, you know, we're still kind of experimenting here. I almost always just have like this habit of creating new layers, you know. I think that was the biggest difference for me starting to sketch on mobile devices and on my computer and stuff is before I was just, you know, kind of like, oh yeah, layers are useful. Dang it, you know, I forgot to create a layer on this thing. And after a while, it became so second nature that almost always I'll have whatever, you know, whatever it is I'm working on, I just go ahead and drop that automatically into a new layer. It helps a lot when editing, especially like if you're doing any work for a client. A lot of times, you know, you spend, you know, a couple of hours on a good concept or just a concept in general, and they like parts of it, but the layout, you know, they're like, okay, change this and that, and the only way you're really going to do that is if you have layers separated, and if you don't, then you have to spend like another 30-40 minutes redoing everything. I have tried Twitch streaming. I had a channel that wasn't under my name for a while. It's really cool. But I do have an account there, and maybe I'll do it in the future. Twitch streaming I've done originally. The only reason that I wanted to try YouTube was that it will upload my video directly to YouTube when I'm done. So this makes it a little bit easier for me, you know, since I wanted to do this scene live, since I kind of started this series that way. And you know, I thought, you know, why not give it a shot. Also, this will kind of help me interact with you guys a little bit more without forcing people who don't use Twitch, you know, to use it. Twitch is cool and all, but a lot of times, you know, it's dominated by a couple of like really good artists like Gears, you know, who stream I love watching and always dropping by there. But at the same time, you know, it's got a particular style. There's a lot of people who are like really into anime and all that, and personally, I'm not an anime type of guy. So, you know, while I did build an okay fan base on my other account, I kind of like don't have enough time to stay consistent with my stream. So I sort of not really abandoned that idea, but I kind of set it aside. I did some pretty cool paintings though on stream. While over at Twitch, we did like this giant dragon piece. I don't know if I have any YouTube videos of it. I definitely shared it on like my Instagram and all that, but that one took like over a week, and I streamed it for a good amount of hours. It was definitely one of those pieces that I was just like, you know, let's take our time with this one, and I think it turned out pretty awesome. It was definitely like, it's kind of like when you go work out at a gym and then you decide to to kind of check what your maximum rep is, or how much weight you can pick up. So you just kind of tense up and get in there and try your best. And that's sort of what I did. It's kind of like a benchmark of all the techniques and stuff that I know. I tried to implement and all that. Yeah, I have streamed on Twitch. I've streamed under the name MLG_unit, which was just like a account I made for fun, kind of like making fun of G-Unit. I know, pretty lame, but I decided after a while, I was like, well, it doesn't really make sense that I'm streaming under this name, since everybody else knows me under I Chaban or just Igor Chaban. So I went ahead and created a new account. And since then, I only had one stream, and I had like just one of my old followers who followed me on Twitter, kind of like hang out with me. Other than that, nobody else. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll do it another time. You have to like hit this sweet spot where there's no like really popular, basically nobody good is streaming, and people will stop by, check it out, and most of the time hang out, because I try to like paint fun stuff, like we did the makeup artist thing, where it's like a little girl performing a makeover on a pug, and I did that on stream, and that was a lot of fun. People seem to enjoy it, so stuff like that I definitely like painting. But most of the time when I'm doing client work, I can't even stream it, because that's just like under contract and all that. So I don't have as much time as I would like to, sit and kind of like draw my own stuff. But again, maybe in the near future, hopefully, I can probably find time. I just kind of need to lay it all out a little bit better. Hopefully you can hear me all right. It says stream health. I wonder what that means. Good. Okay. All right. I guess the quality is good, so that's good to hear, or to read. Let's flip the canvas. We don't do this nearly enough. Again, you see how suddenly it like drastically changed the whole image kind of perspective. It really shifts the lines. So I'm going to create a new layer here, and what I want to try is actually rotating the image a little bit. Since we have our vantage point slanted, I want to also slant these flowers up top. So I created a new layer so that it's fine if I draw over these lines a little bit, but what I want to do is I want to skew these grasslings grass blades, I don't know, I want to twist them a little bit. And I think with the wing, I'm also going to, well, you can't see it right now. Let me show you. With the wing, I want to do this. So I want to kind of have it flexing, so it's fluttering. Let's do that. I'm going to delete this new layer that I created. Scroll back to the twisting, winding grass blades that we have. And I'm actually going to just hide the fill for now. So one thing that might come up, when you're painting your stuff and experimenting and learning, you might, wonder, should I paint stuff that's behind whatever object it is that I'm working on? And my answer, I would say 60 to 70% of the time would be yeah. It doesn't take that long, but fill in areas that you will not even end up seeing. And this is especially true again for client work, because they might like a week later decide, yo, I actually like this placement a little bit more, can you flip it, can you rotate it? And as soon as you rotate it, you see this giant gap, and you're like, oh my gosh, what is that? It just looks gross. So it's kind of like cleaning up under the hood, It very much depends on what sort of painting you're doing. If it's all on one layer, obviously, who cares? You don't have the option to just move stuff around. But if you're breaking it down, the more complex a piece is, I would say the more reason or the more incentive to go back and clean up everything behind it. So already I'm running into the issue of I should have had the sky on a separate layer from the grass, because now I'm like trying to color behind it and it's just gonna take me a little bit longer to get it looking how I want, even though, you know, I could have avoided all that. Like, it's not like something I can't do, but I could have avoided all of this with just dropping it on a separate layer. But, you know, no worries. I ain't tripping. We just get to spend a little bit more time together. How great is that? Okay, I think that's good enough. It's not amazing, but, you know, obviously it flows a little bit. And we can take a look at the before and after. I love doing this. This is one of my favorite things to do on stream, is when I draw something, I have it on a separate layer, and I'm like, okay, now, you know, let's zoom out a little bit, and we pop in and out, and look at that. See, the direction's going upwards, and now we have like a wrapping around. Alright, thanks, Magenta. Do I remember you from Newgrounds? I'm not active anymore, so it's kind of hard for me to remember. Oh, nice. Thanks. Are you doing the animation contest for Jazza? I'm glad you've checked my stuff out all the way since then. But no, I don't remember. Sorry. I have like a couple hundred people on Newground. They ended up featuring my stuff, and I got like a ton of people. I feel like the community is cool, you know, a lot of really nice comments and all that, but it just does not feel as personal as something like Instagram or some of those other things, or like DeviantArt. So I'm sorry if I don't remember you. I'll have a much easier time remembering you on YouTube though, and especially since you were like the first person to comment on you know, on my YouTube stream. So there's always a first, you know. But anyways, yeah, are you gonna end up doing the animation? It's gonna be, I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I have not started, but I'm considering doing one. I just don't, I don't know. I did a like a mini animation on my tablet, on the iPad. I have this program, but it's way too difficult to use if you want to animate anything that's, you know, even remotely more serious than like a really simple stick figure or something. So I'm gonna install some programs and try it out on my computer. Yeah, they got some really cool art stuff on Newgrounds though. So I'm gonna twist the screen around here, and as you guys can kind of hopefully see by the camera, I'm a lefty, and this just allows me to have a natural, more natural hand movement, and I'm able to draw the strokes that, you know, that I need. So let's use some of these highlight colors down here at the bottom to indicate, you know, more grass laying down. And I think we have a separate layer to kind of like click between. Yeah. Alright, I'm gonna move it over so that you guys can see. Alright, we got the before and after. Obviously it's kind of unfair because the wing is supposed to cover some of what you're seeing, but you know, you're getting hopefully you're getting the better idea. You wouldn't be able to keep up in the animation challenge. Well, the cool thing about animation is even if you know, it's not something you're used to doing, it's a great thing to try because it forces you to think about art differently. Like I think last year in November or something, I got really hooked on animating. I was like, yep, that's it. This is what I'm going to do for a living. Just because it was so much fun to try and bring something to life. It just takes an insanely long amount of time and patience, which I kind of already have as an artist. You know, you have to you have to put in pretty long hours into pieces, and you know, there's a lot of little problem solving and stuff that goes on with it. And the same thing with animation. It's just, I don't know. I like the style that focuses less on pivot joints, you know, and more of like Disney's old school, you know, you draw everything hand drawn, which is a lot harder and takes an insane amount of time. So I'm not sure. You can't do it all. Like, you want to, and you can try, but if you want to succeed, you know, you gotta focus on something and just do that instead of, you can't like be jack of all trades because you won't be good at anything. So I'm not sure if I'll end up doing, you know, animation stuff professionally, but it's definitely pretty cool to know. I have not entered into any since the Yeti, and the reason for that is I won the tablet, and I feel like, you know, there's a lot of beginning artists and stuff. I'm not trying to say, oh, I'm the best and I'm always going to win, but, you know, if I buckle down and like work on a project for a whole month, I have, I think, an okay chance of, you know, making top again. And it just feels like, you know, I'm taking a chance away from somebody who probably doesn't have a tablet to win. So I kind of just, you know, I keep track of the whole competition, but I just choose not to do it myself since I'm busy with other stuff. And again, it kind of just doesn't feel like it would be too fair. The animation one, even that, I was like, you know, I like the challenge and I really want to try it, but if I end up making something that's really, really good, I'm just kidding. No, I don't know. We'll see. I'll definitely, it's basically more incentive to me to enter if I can win something that I have not yet won. Because the only reason I entered the first contest actually was I was running out of money, and I'm like, I'm not sure what I want to do for a living. You know, I want to be an artist, but you don't just make it as an artist. You have to put in an insane amount of time, and you just, I don't know, you got to get really lucky. So I was looking at different tablets, and I found, you know, the Wacom, and everybody recommends it and all that. And I really wanted one. So I think it was maybe, it was probably like that same week, I see Jazz's contest, and I was like, this is it. If I buckle down and, you know, put my big boy pants on and try to do this, I can win the exact prize that I want. And that's gonna kind of like really reinsure, I'm sorry, my table's squeaking, like reinsure that, you know, this is what I can do for a living. Like, I'm capable of this. And that's what I did. I spent a month working on the piece, not every day, but I spent a good 15 hours minimum on it. And that's because I redrew it a couple of times, did a few things here and there. And crazy enough, you know, I ended up winning, and I was like, wow, I just beat out like 500 people and won first place, you know. Granted, it's probably because of my novelty, you know, I used an iPad instead of just a computer program, but you know, because of that, I was like, well, I'm done here. You know, now I can just focus more on the work aspect. And, you know, since then, doing a couple of projects here and there, working on a children's book illustration thing. That's been a lot of fun, and that's actually helped me improve too. Consistency again. Like, starting out, I have never done a book where, you know, you draw the same character multiple times in different shapes and interacting with things, and that's helped me out a lot. So it's you know, it's pretty cool. All right, I just did a little bit of tweaking on the petal on the flower, since that one petal looked a little bit lonely, and now I can go back to that line layer, and, you know, since I made the changes to it, let's erase whatever doesn't match. And I like to do this to kind of, you know, basically clean up as I go, but also remind me that, okay, now it's, you know, in the right place. Okay, let's see. we've got, I think we can add a little bit more flowers to the left. And I do mean just a little bit more. Maybe like a couple more purple petals that you could see through the grass. Oh, it's locked. I'm like, why isn't it adding them? We'll grab a little bit of that lighter color. Oh yeah, sure, man. Take your time. You know, it's a stream / regular YouTube video, so you can totally hang out. You know, again, ask whatever you want to ask. Hopefully, it's entertaining for you guys. I don't know. This type of stuff is, for me, it's fun. You know, because I'm the one doing the painting, but I also like talking and telling stories and all that. So hopefully, that also translates to a more fun stream. So that's like the dandelion stuff. I think here we're going to grab the transform tool, cut that sucker out, and just move it back. I think move it back there. Just further back. Okay, we got a lot of flowers going on there. I think we get rid of this blue. I didn't even really need to cut it out. I don't know why I did that. But we get rid of this blue and then we move the purple down here. Yeah, let's move it down here and let's squash it a bit. I want to squash it to kind of indicate, you know, there's air and stuff pushing down on it. Oh, whoops. Didn't want to select the purple flowers in the front. I got to squish that one down a bit. And here we go. Here we go. Okay, so let's color the flying thingy a little bit. And before I do that, I want to redo the wings just a little bit. And as I was saying, with the wings, I want to shape them so that they look like they're thrusting a little bit more. Just there's more pushing of the wind going on. So we're gonna just grab black, scroll down to like a 5 size brush. I can duplicate this layer. So you click on the layer, you slide to the left, hit duplicate, it duplicated it. Ooh, what do you know? Now we can erase a little bit off of the edge of the wing, off of the top, since the top is going to be bending down, and then we do that. So I like to you know, not draw every single line perfectly right away. We're going to erase the line art here, and the reason for that is I'm going to erase the line art on this layer off of the flying thingy. So now we have a separate line art for the kid and a separate line art for the bee, and that's just going to help organize things a little bit. Looks like there's still some line art on the edges. Get rid of it as best as I can. It's really stubborn. Like, you see, I hit the select and it's selecting the whole screen, even though I guess we can do this. Okay, whatever. I'm just wasting time now. Okay, so those two are separate. Let's go back to our flying thingy. Since the line art on the kid is now on a separate layer, we can focus on cleaning up the wing and making it look good right away. I think it makes sense to slightly drop this wing as well. Yeah, we'll do that. And I'm going to add like a blurring effect, you know, into the motion so that it combines it, like it gives it a little bit more movement. We're basically animating without animating. It's just the idea behind it, you know. What might this wing look like, you know, a high-speed wing look like in a still shot. Now, we've got the wings. Let's fill the colors in. I think this is fine enough. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect, honestly. And, you know, that's because the wing will be blurred. It'll be redrawn. It'll be corrected. So for now, we're good. Now we're going to lower the opacity on the line art. We're going to lower it quite a bit. Now we're going to zoom in and we see any gaps. Basically right now the silhouette of the piece, you know, here's where we can adjust it. We have one of the legs and it runs down and it's got the little foot part on the bottom, the soft pads from the legs themselves. Go up to here, outline this foot on the bottom. Here's the little toe, if you want to call it that. The other side's got a toe as well. These bags are what hold pollen down. Now it's got to be big flowers because it's a big bee. So we've got that going on. Alright. Oh man, I've probably been 51 minutes already. We need to keep going somewhere with this. Otherwise, it's going to be like one of those, you know, 3 hours to finish this piece, which is okay for regular, you know, Twitch stream and stuff, but hopefully it won't be too long because I feel like, you know, it makes it harder to want to watch the whole thing. You kind of just want to skip to the end result. I know I always do with like all the art stuff. So here, first thing I'm gonna do is probably redraw the eyes. Not redraw the eyes. Well, I guess redraw the eyes since we haven't really drawn them yet. We only have the line art. So we're gonna color in. We're gonna fill in the eyes. And I probably should use a different layer for that, just because I can make adjustments to them, you know, to the reflection on them and stuff, and I can shade the texture of the bug underneath without really worrying about having to redraw those. So let's create a new layer. This will be for the eyes. As you can see, my layers are slowly raking up in number, and that's fine. I don't think it's too chaotic because I like to separate layers by objects. It's not like, you know, I have 4 or 5 layers for a single object. Normally I'll have like 2, and I guess if, you know, unless it was like a giant spaceship, then you're talking more. But like with this bug, you know, right now we just have 2 layers. We have the fill and we have the eyes. And even after that's done, you know, you can name the eyes, you know, the eye layer, and then from that point on you just kind of skip through it when you're not working on them, so you don't get confused. So we'll have sort of the shape for one eye. Let's get the second one in there. The antenna, I gotta make sure that doesn't, if that overlaps, then I have to properly overlap it. I already, separating these two already, you can see that the eyes are not, they're not even enough. Something looks off. So let's go back to the eye layer. And let's try to get these shapes looking a little bit more identical. I think part of that has to do with this top layer right here, it should be cut in a little bit more. Oops, I had the orange selected. Yeah, it's the base right here. Here, I'll show you what I mean. I think this is the problem. This needs to kind of rotate more. Yeah, that looks better. It's not exactly what I need, but it's looking better. So minor tweaks like this, you know, you wish you noticed them in the line art stage, but sometimes I'm like too lazy to fix it because I get fed up with it. Hey Magenta, what's good? What's good? Okay, line art time, or rather no line art time. It just depends. Right now we want to go back to the fill layer. Since it's on a separate layer from the eyes, we want to fill around and make sure that, you know, nothing is floating where it shouldn't. Let's move the face up a little bit more, basically to include eyebrows, and go back to the eyes and chop a little bit off the top. That might be too much. But putting one straight line through the top of the eyes already like gives it a different expression pretty much. You know, this would like give it kind of like a I'm so sick of this flower stuff, you know, when you undo it, and already you've got like the object looking like, you know, it's trying to pay attention and it's hunting or seeking something. Okay, so that's done. Let's grab a darker color, as you may have seen there. I'm going to lock this layer, lower the opacity, or yeah, lower the opacity on the brush, and we're going to do a couple of quick strokes to kind of indicate where the shadows might be. Even though the colors are still bound to change, we're just trying to get an approximation. Nice progress, thank you. Hopefully we are making progress. I don't know, I feel like, you know, the iPad slows stuff down. You just don't have as much flexibility as you do with a stylus. You know, even though in some cases I prefer using the iPad for painting, there's just features and stuff where I'm like, yeah, that's definitely nicer. So bear with me here. This is mainly for people, you know, that have an iPad but don't have like the rig to kind of test everything out. If you have no options, I say this is a good option. As you know, redundant or whatever as that sounds. Okay, good. Why is it's just, I'm thinking like, why are those lines really dark? And that's because the line art makes it look that way. So we'll go back to the fill layer, and here we can start to choose a color for our wings. It'll be a gray, but I'll make them look a little bit transparent and hazy and moving, you know. That's the idea. So let's grab this gray color. To paint transparency and not just lower the layer transparency, I'll show you how that's done for anybody who's interested. I think it's going to look pretty cool, so you know, stick around. It feels so weird to draw with my right hand, man. Okay, again, we want to grab some darker color towards the torso of this creature, of this bug. We want to drop this darker color, especially on the bottom, even if it's transparent. You know, light still has to go through it, and less of it comes out the other side because it's not perfectly see-through. So now we go back to the face, and here I'm just going to soften some of the colors because right now it's looking very rough. I'll use a little bit more of a colorful highlight as well. You know, maybe something like that. But it's not really a highlight, it's just the color in direct light. That's what we're looking at. So a little bit of the color is shown up on the bottom, since, you know, the body covers up a lot of the rest, I guess. This is just me guessing here, guys. This is what it looks like. And we'll do a little bit of highlights on the butt. Not really highlights. So we want the eyebrow to be visible. I'll still fix the eyes a little bit. I'm gonna end up merging this layer and going over it one more time, but I want to start honing in on what it looks like without line art, and you see me doing that by like lowering the opacity a little bit more and more, and then eventually getting rid of it. So we go back to the face. Let's grab a darker orange, almost brown, and well, that explains why it's not showing up. We were on the wrong layer. Make sure you're on the right layer, and then go in and do the pinchers. Yeah. Use the color picker. Do what you gotta do and make it look you know, make it look good. Make sure we go back to the right layer. The biggest downside for using a lot of layers or painting on a big canvas is, like right now, I notice the slower like response time from using the app. So that's, you know, that's a negative, obviously. I don't have the latest iPad anymore, so that could be a possibility if you're like on a mini or something, on a whatever they're called. Maybe you wouldn't even have these issues, but personally, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the slowed down response time. So here, I think we separate the layer one more time. And I think today I'm gonna finish the B, and then I'll call it a day, and then save the rest of the stuff for next time. And the reason for that is I don't want the stream to be too long. I think already it's gonna be pushing like 2 hours to finish this thing up, which is a lot, to say the least. So here I'm gonna turn off the layer lock. On the fill layer, I want to select the fill layer. I said select the fill layer. See, it doesn't want to do it. It's working really, really slowly. Oh, come on, iPad, don't die on me here. Maybe I need to merge stuff down. I don't really want to merge the flowers with the background. No, I can't. I can't really afford to start merging stuff. So we're on the proper layer now. I want to erase the antennas and redraw them. I'm going to redraw them on a separate layer. And the reason for that is they're going to have their own shading and highlighting. So it'll speed up time. If I separate them now, it'll speed up the process for coloring this bug. Instead of, you know, putting it off till later. I think I went a little bit too bright on the head anyways. There will be a lot of adjusting, like with the eyes. Yeah, it's right now it's just working insanely slow. I think this thing must be heating up. Not really. I'm not sure what the problem is. Let's go to gallery and then come back in. Huh? No, still taking forever. I'll do some quick eye reflections. Doesn't that look more menacing? I think so. And I'm going to get rid of the line art reflections because I don't really need, you know, guidance to where to put them. I can see. Let's go back to the eyes. So that's kind of the situation there. Create a new layer for the antennas. Magenta, don't worry about it. Again, thanks for hanging out. You know, thanks for the interaction. It's been good talking to you. And yeah, check out the painting when I'm done with it. So here we are on a separate layer, and this is where I'm going to draw in the antennas. And now that's done. Okay, now we can go back to the line art and get rid of them, just because I have, you know, an approximation of what it should look like, and I could kind of play around with it. Oh man, this bug is going to take forever. I do want to consider actually separating the entire head from the bug. And this is what I mean, you know, you want to work in layers. You don't like half-ass it, you work in layers. So let's cut down a little bit more here. Basically separate the head from the body. And what I want to do is I want to look at the left side as opposed to the right side of the eye, looking from the bug's point of view, not from mine. You see that the space right here is not as great as right here. And yeah, a lot of that has to do with, you know, slight perspective and stuff, but at the same time, I think we can move the eye a little bit closer to the other one. So just move it over slightly, ever so slightly. Then we want to move the antennas as well. Something like this. The little holes aren't really a problem to move, even though they're on the same layer as the bug. You just grab them, move them, and then you fill in the missing color by dropping another layer underneath. I showed this in one of my videos, coloring it in and just collapsing the layer above. And there you go. So now they're merged, the little stuff is fixed, and I think, let's zoom out and let's take a look and see if the bug is, I think the eyes are in a better place. I just need to remove some of the material or whatever, some of the head. Gotta cut it down. Okay, I'm aware that we're cutting into the wing, but you know what? Oh well. That's just, these things happen. And we need to cut more off of this side. See, I kind of want to make the eyes bulge outwards, like around the face completely. So it might be worth just doing this getting rid of this whole line right here. And then taking a look at it like that. Again, these eyes aren't perfect, but after I merge everything together, I think I'll have more than enough time to play around with it and kind of, you know, tweak it accordingly. Alright, now the head needs to move down, the whole head. The main issue here is I need to separate it, and instead of moving the head down, I'm going to move the body up. Most of that is due to having the eyes, the antennas, and stuff on a separate layer. So, let's duplicate the layer with the bug. We have just the head selected right now. I'm gonna hide the layer underneath, and here we're going to erase the head, since that's mainly what I have selected. Now when I reveal the layer underneath, you can see that it's still whole. So what we want to do is select the body this time and erase that. So we hit the minus so that it excludes everything but what excludes everything we selected, leaving just the body. And then you use a giant brush. Boom, done. Okay, so this layer just has the head. That layer just has the body. Same thing applies here. Move the body to the layer underneath. And we can even hide the head real quick, and we can kind of see, you know, where the creature shape goes. So we'll fill it in, fill in all the empty spaces. Let's get the wing done. Alright, now we can move this guy up a little. I understand that the line art's going to be a little bit screwed up from this, but that's not really an issue for me because, again, I just use the line art as like a basic guide. So for the head now, for the head layer, we want to, one way of doing that is you turn off the body layer and you go in and you erase any little extras that you missed when quickly selecting the layers. And since the eye is on a separate layer, we don't have to even worry about erasing any parts of the eye, so we can just kind of like quickly draw in there and cut around it. The head cut a little bit too much off of that one. Alright, the head is now separate, and you know, now I can work on the respective body parts a little bit easier. Man, this little guy is going to be really, it's not that it's complicated, it's going to be a really time consuming piece. And I'm kind of glad that I separated the line art videos from the coloring ones, because the coloring ones, this isn't necessarily how you paint everything. And you know, line art is a completely different animal. So these videos more show how to just color from your imagination, I guess. And you know, this process or these kind of colors and stuff obviously don't apply to every painting. So I'm not really sure if this is even part of the series, but maybe. Okay, so we've got a little bit more of the progress on the body. Let's get rid of this line art. It's kind of in my way. So without the line art, we can kind of take a look at the whole scene And I think what might help speed this thing up is if it doesn't have to render everything. So let's hide all these layers and work on this guy piece by piece. I think starting with the head and the eyes. Alright, it's an hour and 15 minutes. I think I might end the stream here. I know I said I wanted to finish the bug, but the problem is, you know, it's taking longer than I want. It's hot here, and I'm exhausted. I'm not sure. You know, I want it to be fun, and often I get tired, and I'm like, okay, I'm done here. So before I go, I'm going to show you guys what I've kind of drawn for fun. It's going to be a Siberian rhino. So it's like a big, fat, fluffy rhino thing. So it's kind of like a mix between a polar bear, a rhino, and a lot of fur. And that's just the line art for that piece. So we'll be working on that someday. Here's like a cloud-breathing dragon that I was doing. The idea, I think, is pretty cool. The execution is still not there. So I might come back to this, or I might redo it completely. And I've done other stuff on my phone and all that, but I haven't finished. So anyways, thanks for watching. Hopefully it's, you know, somewhat entertaining. I might be able to do it later with a little bit more energy and stuff. So yeah, as of right now, you know, you guys have a good night, and it's really late here, so I'm gonna go too. All right, bye bye.